Welcome back into Sports Memos College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, section number 4 with our closer, Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome into the pod. How are you?
Coffee's for closers, brother. How are you today?
I'm good, man. That is a good one, and hopefully we can close it off strong here with the last half or the last section here of the college football card. It's been a great podcast so far. We're talking 395, 396 up first. AAC battle here, a good one, Teddy. Tulane versus Memphis. We're seeing Tulane take some money, 4 down to 3.5 now, 59 the total in this one, Teddy.
I mean, I'm not surprised that Tulane's taking money in this game. When you look at the profiles of these two teams for the full season, I understand that Memphis was 5-0 going to the Temple game last week. But from a statistical standpoint, there's been some issues from Memphis. And surprisingly, a team that we thought was going to be pretty efficient on offense this season. They've had, on a yards per play standpoint, they're fine. But turning those yards into points hasn't been something that Memphis has done particularly well. And look, there's nothing not to like about this Tulane team. Everyone's been talking about Willie Fritz. This is the year that Willie Fritz has been building towards, and it is most assuredly a Tulane squad right now that they're clicking on all cylinders. Now, I do worry because they just faced, back-to-back games against Army and Connecticut, teams that, when you talk about defensive speed, there isn't a whole lot there. But we are talking about 4 straight wins, 4 straight covers, 500-plus yards in every game. They're not turning the ball over. They're turning opposing teams over. There's a lot more to like about Tulane right now, I think, than there is about Memphis, even though the two teams have the exact same record. If I was playing, I'd be looking at the dog in this one.
Teddy, great stuff to start off. We got 397, 398 in the ACC. North Carolina at Virginia Tech here. We're seeing UNC laying 3 in the hook. 57 the total in Lane Stadium.
Well, I mean, we've seen Virginia Tech cover 1 point spread this year. That was in a game where they got out-yarded by 250 yards, but they were +5 in turnovers. All in the first half against Miami when they led that game, 28-0, and then had to hang on for the win. Now they got the win there, and they continued that last week and went over an FCS squad. So maybe there are some positive signs. And of course, this is in some ways the Virginia Tech collapse is almost like the Michigan collapse, where it's not a collapse. They lost 2 games. Now, they were both as favorites, but they're 4-2 this season. Just like, when I talk about Michigan, we'll talk about Michigan later. Oh, Michigan's collapse. No, they lost a 1 game to Wisconsin. It's not like everything's fallen off. But, there are certainly a fair share of concerns about the Virginia Tech side right now. This is not a dynamic offense. We've seen that pretty clearly. With the exception of the Miami game, the defense hasn't been turning teams over. We've seen opposing teams come on this field and blow Virginia Tech off the field. And when you talk about buys at this stage of the season, North Carolina coming off that bye, fresh, rested, and ready, that matters. They bounced back from the Clemson loss with a nice win at Georgia Tech last week. And I certainly look at the Tar Heels as a team that merits being road chalk in Blacksburg this weekend.
Teddy, heading to the Big Ten, we got Minnesota, the Golden Gophers at Rutgers. Looks like, man, I haven't seen the Golden Gophers lay a number like this maybe in my life. We're seeing 4 touchdowns here, 28 in the hook on the road, 47.5 the total. Speaks a lot to where this Rutgers program's at, Teddy.
I mean, Rutgers' last 3 games, they lose 52-0 to Michigan, 48-7 to Maryland, 35-0 Indiana. There's no. I guess if you gave me +80, I'd look at Rutgers. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of a point spread that I'd be interested in Rutgers at. I'm not interested in Rutgers. You're not going to make money betting on the true bottom feeders in college football. And they've already lost, again, their head coach, their starting quarterback, their backup quarterback, their lone skill position threat. This is a Rutgers team that is the ultimate playing out the string. I don't expect them to do anything except for lose and get killed. And obviously it's not a point spread that many people are comfortable laying with Minnesota. And boy, you want to talk about a negative subset. Look for teams that just entered the top 25 and are laying points on the road the next week. It's like 2-12 ATS the last 14 tries. It's not pretty. But the only way I could play this is Minnesota. They back-to-back blowout wins for the Gophers, and I wouldn't be surprised they get a third one.
Good stuff, Teddy. We got Big 12 action here. This is a game I'm pretty interested in, man. Texas Tech has been a An up and down handicap, to say the least. We got Iowa State, the Cyclones, heading to West Texas to take on Texas Tech Red Raiders. We're seeing -7 here. That's the Cyclones laying on the highway. 57 the total, Teddy.
Iowa State's a one-way team for me. If I'm involved in an Iowa State game, I'm supporting the Cyclones. And, again, we're talking about a team that Matt Campbell's squad was supposed to be the best Iowa State team of the decade coming into the campaign. I mean, you read it over and over again. And then they start out and they barely escape Northern Iowa in the opener. And they lose to Iowa the next game. They lose to Baylor. All of a sudden the markets are like, well, maybe not so much. The last 2 weeks, we've seen Iowa State. They annihilated TCU, and they followed it up by annihilating West Virginia. And I'm not convinced Texas Tech's a whole lot better than those two teams. I'm really not. I mean, the Red Raiders have shown signs at times, but again, coming off a tough physical game against Baylor that fell apart in overtime. And, I don't trust the Red Raiders this week. It'd be the road favorite or pass for this better. And again, over the last 2 weeks, Texas Tech's forced 8 turnovers defensively. I don't see them, forcing turnovers in bunches against Iowa State. That's a team that holds on to the football and protects the football on a consistent basis. I mean, for the year, do they have 10? Let me see. For the year, Iowa State has 8 turnovers. That's 6 games.
Wow. And Teddy, bringing up turnovers, this is something I've started to bring into my handicapping. Interested in your thoughts is, teams that turn the ball over a lot tend to turn the ball over in the future, and teams that don't, it's not just 100% random. And it seemed like, in the mainstream betting markets, a lot of people thought that turnovers were just random. I'm not of that view. What about you?
I'm with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very interested in, and there's 2 parts to the turnover equation. There's the offense turning the ball over, and is the defense capable of forcing turnovers? There's some defenses that the athleticism just isn't there. They're just not going to force a whole lot. They've got a handful, but it's not going to be game in, game out turnovers in bunches. When you find a defense that's got athletes all over the field, they're likely to have turnovers, create turnovers more consistently. So, but the concept of the team that turns the ball over early in the season is likely to continue to have those problems, and the teams with positive turnover differentials are likely to get more positive, and negatives are likely to get more negative. Mm-hmm. I'm with you in the concept that a lot of bettors seem to think, it's going to even out, when there are teams that are built for turnover margin and teams that aren't. You have a good quarterback and a defense that makes plays, you're going to win the turnover margin at the end of the season. You should. And there's obviously some randomness in there, but and similarly, if you have a defense that's not athletic and you have a quarterback who makes mistakes, you're likely to lose turnover battles all year long. And when you talk about week by week, how do you take advantage of it? You find spots to bet on teams with good turnover margins and find spots to bet against teams with lousy turnover margins. And, Texas Tech has created a bunch of turnovers defensively of late. I'm not convinced that's their MO. Iowa State isn't turning the ball over on offense, and I am convinced that's their MO. They're not going to be a team that turns the ball over 3, 4, 5 times a week.
He's Teddy Covers. Well said, Teddy. And guys, he's 188 and 140. That's 57% in the NFL since 2015. That's a 5-year record in the NFL. 57%, one of the best in the business. Last year in NFL and college football, 58%. His 5% plays year to date, hitting at a 60% clip. And you can get the rest of his NFL and college football season for a $300 discount using the coupon code TC300 at checkout for his full season NFL and college football service at sportsmemo.com all the way through the Super Bowl national championship. You get his props package and everything. No extra charges later. $300 off at sportsmemo.com using the coupon code TC300. Next game up, Teddy, we got USF, and this is a game I haven't really broken down much, but I think USF won last week. I'm not 100% sure on that. You don't see that every week. They're at Navy here. We got 51 being the total, with Navy, the midshipman, laying 14 in the hook or 15.
I mean, the markets have crashed so much on USF now. A team that got off to a good start last year and everything fell apart down the stretch for Charlie Strong's squad. And they started out this year, they lost to Wisconsin 49-0, and then lost at Georgia Tech. And the markets are like, since that time, they've won 3 out of 4. They've covered 3 out of 4. The only loss coming against SMU. They pulled the upset last week against BYU, but it is worth noting they were out-yarded by 140 in that game, and they were somehow found a way to win in -2 in turnovers, which speaks volumes about BYU in that contest. Basically, they rallied from behind in the fourth quarter and stole it. I don't trust this defense to stop Navy. I don't trust this offense to put up points in bunches against Navy. USF is not a team I'm particularly excited about. But again, at 3-3, they're not hopeless. But the Navy team we've seen the last 2 weeks has been impressive. They really have. And that wasn't the Navy team we saw last year. It wasn't the Navy team that we've seen earlier in the season. Worth noting, the Middies have out-yarded their opponent in every game this season. And when you find teams that get those yardage edges game in, game out, Drew, the markets react to that significantly. That's why, I mean, I like Navy, but the price here is a little bit too high. And it's based on their impressive yardage numbers.
Teddy, next game up in the Fun Belt, we got both division leaders in the East and the West in the Sun Belt. We got UL Monroe at App State. App State laying 15 in Boone, 66 the total here, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, App State is 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. An impressive win against Lafayette. Extra time to prepare since that win came on a Wednesday. Defensively, they look as good as anything the Sun Belt has to offer, and the Warhawks are not a defensive team. They're going to put up. They need to put up points in bunches, and we know that the last game out they had Texas State, which was a relatively low-scoring scrum, but I don't see Louisiana Monroe winning a bunch of low-scoring games. That's not a defense that I've been impressed with. And again, we saw Iowa State hang 72 on them, Memphis hang 52 on them, et cetera, et cetera. App State's the class here. It's pretty clear. But it's a lot of points to be giving to an underdog. And we talk about defensive dogs. When it comes to road dogs in this price range, I want an offensive dog. I want a dog that can put up points. So if they fall behind 21, they have some life. And Louisiana Monroe is one of those type of teams. That offense doesn't get shut down on a consistent basis. Slightest of leans towards a dog in this one.
Teddy, Missouri at Vandy up next in the SEC East. We're seeing Missouri laying 3 touchdowns on the road, 56 the total in Nashville.
Yeah, so I've seen Missouri play once away from home this year, and I remember the game because I had them. And they led 14-0 at Wyoming in the first quarter, and they fell completely apart. Both sides of the ball. They were hopeless the rest of that game. It was ugly. And since then, boy, fat and happy and healthy. They've won 5 straight at home. They didn't cover, depending on where you bet it last week against, we're 38-27. They were 10.5, 11, 11.5. But they've been a little bit of a juggernaut at home. They built up a pretty big betting bandwagon. I remember at Clemson, Kelly Bryant had some problems in road starts. I saw him do it at Wyoming in a road start. No, I'm not laying with Memphis this week and with Missouri this week. And again, the yardage numbers are through the roof. They've outgained every opponent by more than 100 yards this season. That's why this price is what it is. And I mean, look, Vandy's not a team anyone's excited about betting. The next point spread they cover will be the first point spread they covered this year. Ofer, But it kind of reminds me of that Arkansas game, where Arkansas lost at home to San Jose State, and everyone's like, Arkansas, you stink. And they go the next week and they give A&M everything they can handle. They're in that game. That can go to overtime or came down to the wire.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about backing Vandy, but give me a free bet on this game. It would be Vandy plus before Missouri minus. The Commodores I don't want to catch the falling knife with Vandy. And again, they haven't covered a spread yet this year. They just lost as 15.5-point home favorites by 24 to a bad UNLV team.
Yeah.
So I'm not excited about the Vandy side, but the price is not right for the road favorite here. It'd be dog or pass for me.
Yeah, great breakdown, Teddy. I agree with you 100%. The investment term, don't catch the falling knife, but it's an SEC team that just lost to a Mountain West team at home. I think that knife has hit rock bottom in terms of the marketplace. And I mean, we're seeing it here. They're catching 3 touchdowns at home. So good stuff there, Teddy. We got heading out to the Mountain West. Speaking of San Jose State, they're hosting San Diego State here with the Aztecs, laying 8 in the hook on the road, 45.5 the total, Teddy.
I don't know what to do with this game. So we talk about turnovers, all right? San Jose State's defense has created 5, 2, 6, and 3 their last 4 ball games. Three covers and a push against the closers during that span. But when your defense creating 16 turnovers in a 4-game span, you're doing something right. Now we can't look at that as being completely fluky anymore. We can't. The Spartans have a quarterback who can chuck the football around. I'm not going to sell that team short. At the same time, the Aztecs are the class here, and they've been covering numbers 4-1 against the spread their last 5. Defensively, San Diego State it's just so fundamentally sound. And Agnew's been making plays downfield. They rallied from behind to beat Wyoming last week. This isn't a game I'm playing. I think the number's about right. I'm not excited about laying a price with San Diego State on the highway. And I guess if I had to play it, I'd look at San Jose plus. But on the other hand, I don't see the Aztecs turning the ball over a bunch of times. And when you have a team positive turnover margin 4 weeks in a row, maybe they are a little overvalued in the marketplace.
He's Teddy Covers. Follow him on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. This is the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, section number 4. We have the first 3 sections at sportsmemo.com before, also on Apple, iTunes, and on YouTube simulcast now. So check them any way you're consuming it. We're all for it. We got Charlotte at Western Kentucky up next. Looks like 48 the total here, Teddy, and that's the lowest total for the 49ers, I believe, in quite some time. We're also seeing 9 or 9.5. That's the Hilltoppers laying at home.
Yeah, well, the Hilltoppers, last 3 weeks, 45.5 against UAB, that stays under by double digits. 43 against Old Dominion, that stays under by double digits. 43 against Army, that stays under by double digits. So that's why we're seeing this total where it is. This Hilltoppers defense is very real, and when you find a defense at this level, that's a bet on team. And especially when you're talking about a team that isn't putting up these gaudy point totals to attract betting attention. The problem, of course, is that in this point spread range, not only have to win, they have to win by margin. Now, they are playing. The question is, I'm confident that Western Kentucky is going to have some success slowing down Charlotte offensively. Charlotte's not a blow them out offense. The question is that the Hilltoppers offense capable of scoring against the Charlotte defense is giving up points and yards and bunches to everyone. 5-12 to Florida International, 5-59 to Florida Atlantic over the last 2 games, 45, 48 points allowed. They gave up 52 to Clemson, 56 to App State. It's a bad defense. So can Western Kentucky actually do something offensively? I mean, this team hasn't gotten above 365 yards on offense against any D1 foe this year. And that makes me, even with their defensive numbers, maybe you play the under here, but laying the points a little bit, it's hard for me to do with a team that doesn't score.
Teddy, I got to give you props here. Western Kentucky is the type of team profile that I remember you explaining to me years ago in terms of it's a college football team, FBS, that lost to an FCS team week 1. And It goes on a point spread run here. Have you jumped on that? Because I remember you telling me a couple years ago you like that profile. Is Western Kentucky one that you've made some money off of this year?
No, unfortunately, no. I should have.
Yeah. No, good stuff there in terms of remember that for next year, guys. The teams that do lose to an FCS team sometimes go on a run right after that, and Western Kentucky is one. And Teddy hit the nail on the head there in terms of their front 7, front 8, linebackers, D-line are for real. So staying in Conference USA, we got MTSU, that's Middle Tennessee at North Texas. 60 the total. Looks like North Texas laying 7 in the hook in Denton.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really excited about either one of these squads this week. North Texas has been a real money burner for their backers. They do not have a type of defense that I'm looking to support. In Middle Tennessee, I mean, we talked about seeing some signs from Stockton Squad. And again, last week, they win the yardage battle by 100 and lose by 2 touchdowns. So, maybe there's a little bit of value there. Obviously, that to do with turnovers. And the first time in 4 games they turned the ball over. But again, sticking with the team trend, focus on turnovers. They've only forced a turnover once in one of their last 4 ball games. Not a game I really have spent a lot of time with or am planning on getting involved with, Drew.
Teddy, battle for Texas here. Rice at Texas San Antonio, 42 the total, 4.5 or 5. Seeing some opinion in the marketplace here. That's the Rice Owls laying on the road.
Yeah, the winless Rice Owls laying 4.5 on the road.
Tells you something.
Well, it speaks volumes. And look, I can fully understand the money on Rice this week. All right, Texas San Antonio is not a good team. All right, their one win against a D1 opponent this year came against UTEP, who is just as bad as they are. And that was
had to win.
which they were able to run the football. the Roadrunners have no quarterback, and if you can run the football, they can run the football. They have a chance to hang around in these games. Rice defensively has been surprisingly sound all year long. They don't have speed, they don't have size, but coming off the bye week against an opponent that they can beat, if ever there's a spot to lay points with Rice, it's probably this week.
Teddy, we got Temple at SMU up next. This is a game that's catching a lot of mainstream media here. Obviously, talking SMU and point spread cover straight up wins. They're laying 8.5 here to a Temple team that can play some defense. I like the Owls in this matchup. We're seeing 59.5 as the total, Teddy.
I can understand the concept, but I'm not going to get there with the dog in this one. And it comes down to the spot. This time of the year, when you're talking about these bye weeks, they're very meaningful. And here's Temple. They're coming off that was an intense game against Memphis last week.
They covered.
They win the turnover battle, and everything breaks right for them. And they escape, hang on, and win by a bucket. Whereas SMU is coming off the bye week. They're coming off a test and a great test to go into that bye week where they, have to rally from 3 touchdowns down against Tulsa to win in OT. Chance to rest and recuperate. Now here's our focus against an opponent that SMU needs to beat by margin. I'm not stepping in front of the Mustangs here. I worry about the Owls' ability to trade points with these guys, and I worry about Temple running out of gas at some point in this one. They faced a tough slate of late.
Teddy, we got a couple games left here. Next up, UTEP versus FIU. Looks like 52 the total. The Panthers laying 24.5 in Miami.
Well, I just talked about UTSA as being a team that Rice is good to lay points with. I can lay points with Rice. 0-6 Rice against UTSA. Well, UTSA beat UTEP by double digits. Okay.
Wow.
UTEP is a rough. They're hopeless programs. UTEP is a pretty hopeless program. I want no part of that school. And FIU's shown blowout ability the last couple of weeks. Back-to-back wins and covers, 44-0, 48-23. I don't love this point spread range for Florida International, but I know I don't want the dog in this one.
Teddy, we got 2 games left here in the Big Ten, talking your alma mater, Michigan at Penn State, 47 the total. Penn State laying 9.5 in Happy Valley. I think it's a whiteout. Points me towards the home team. What about you?
It's certainly a home field advantage. That's worth a ton. Penn State has one of the, if not the strongest home field edges in college football. It's been very clear in the James Franklin era. If you've been betting on the Nittany Lions at home, you've been making money. If you've been betting the favorite in this series, you've been making money. Each of the last 3 years has been a blowout. 3 years ago, Michigan at home in Ann Arbor. 2 years ago, Penn State here in Happy Valley. Last year, Michigan in Ann Arbor. Again, we're talking about 5 touchdown wins. Some of the worst losses of the season for Penn State. They certainly remember what happened last year in Ann Arbor. And of course, we've seen this Michigan team underachieve against the spread. We've seen the offense be hit or miss. We've seen the defense have struggles on the road. The Wisconsin game and the Illinois game, the first 2 defensive games of the season. All these factors point towards Penn State. Revenge mode, blowout series. Michigan's dicey. Nittany Lions home field. But all that said, twice this year, we've seen Penn State play a team that plays defense. They were life and death to beat Pitt, and they were life and death to beat Iowa, and they scored 17 points in each of those games. They were out-yarded in each of those games. Michigan, I think, has a good defense. I know they had the bad game at Wisconsin, and I know last week they fell asleep with the lead of Illinois, but this is a pretty good D against an offense that has not shown signs of being able to move the football against pretty good defenses. At 10, I might be a buyer with the Wolverines. Even in a blowout series, I worry about, the Wolverines getting killed here. But at plus 10, I might pull the trigger on Michigan. I really might. Haven't done it yet. That's the only way I would look.
Looking towards the dog in key matchup there. We got one game left, guys. He's Teddy Covers. Check him out at sportsmemo.com. 57% last 5 years in the NFL. 58% last year NFL and college football. Hitting 60% clip on his big plays so far this year. We got the coupon code TC300. That's TC300 at checkout for his full season NFL and college football at sportsmemo.com for $300 off. That coupon code will be good for the next 48 hours. Teddy, we got one game left, and it's my favorite, kind of because of the teams, but mainly because of the time it's kicking. The degenerate special, so to speak, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. We got Air Force heading out to the island. And we always talk about money management and don't bet too much. Don't chase if you're down. Don't bet too much if you're up. Save your money. Having said all of that, Teddy, the guys that want a little action on the late night slate, we got Air Force laying 3 on the island at Hawaii, 66.5 the total. Teddy, if you had to make a bet, which way are you playing it?
So my initial reaction was to look at Hawaii and to look at the over. The more I looked at the game, I talked myself out of both. I do think that Hawaii is going to have some success throwing the football against a Falcons defense that's not good against the pass. But Hawaii is a team that has not taken care of the football at any stage this season. They're a turnover squad, and that definitely concerns me, in this one. Against an Air Force team that, when you look at how the Falcons attack matches up against Hawaii's had no success stopping them in any recent meeting, in any season. So you say, all right, well, Hawaii can chuck the football around. Air Force can run the football all day. What about the over in this game? Makes a ton of sense. The problem is the pace. Air Force goes on these long drives, 7 minutes, and then they kick a field goal. You're like, oh, I'm up against it already. You don't see Air Force games with both teams getting 14, 15, 16 possessions, or 13 possessions. Air Force games are low possession games, and that requires a level of offensive efficiency from both teams to get this game over 67. That's not where Air Force tends to be priced. Their highest total this year has been 57.5. That game stays under. They got to 65 against San Jose. That was also in that 57 range. But even that, highest scoring game they've had all year, didn't go over this number.
Teddy, great stuff. As always, guys, remember to check out his packages at sportsmemo.com, and that coupon code is TC300 at checkout. Teddy, any last words of advice before we shut the pod down?
Yeah, I got some advice. Enjoy the games. Good luck this weekend. We'll be back again on Monday.
All right. NFL opening line report with Teddy Covers, posted each and every Monday. That's the next time we'll have Teddy on. Guys, we will be back with the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast later today. Best of luck with your bets.